Most people building AI agents in n8n are doing it wrong. They hard code every prompt, they spend hours fixing broken nodes, broken prompts, and in so doing, you're also exposing your prompts inside of your n8n workflow. In this video, I'm going to show you how to flip that. We're going to store all of our AI agent prompts, the system prompt, user prompt, and the assistant prompt. Everything's going to get stored in one place to be managed very easily. We could get in there and change any prompt we want all in one place. No copy and pasting, no exposing your prompts, no wasted hours, and just clean data that works in your automation system. So let's dive into learning dynamic AI prompts in n8n. All right, let's dive right into it. So this is a workflow that I have. You can see I have two AI agents right in here. So I have an image prompt writer agent and I have a caption writer agent. Okay, these two agents are working in these routes of this workflow. This workflow is part of my 7-day Automation Bootcamp training. You can learn how to build this step by step. This will generate images, edit images, generate video, and generate captions, then automatically post them to social media. I've got the link to my 7-day Automation Bootcamp. I'll walk you through this step by step, building out every single node. It is meant for absolute beginners. You can check that out. What we're going to be doing is talking about how to implement agent prompts dynamically. Okay, so inside of this prompt, you can see, or inside of this agent, rather, you can see I have my system prompt. This is the system prompt for this agent, right? I have the user input and I have the assistant prompt. Getting to know these three roles. If you don't know these three roles, this is how every LLM is structured, right? It's how it works with data, how it's going to know how to behave and what to do with information, right? So if you drop down the role here, you can see those are the three options we have: the user input, the assistant, and the system prompts. You can see a little bit about what they do right here. Tell the model to adopt a specific tone or personality. You could say, you are bubbly and really friendly. You're always nice to people. And then the system prompt is, you are bubbly, you are nice to people, but your job is to write, but your job here in the system prompt is to take in my angry emails, reword them into corporate facing business language, something like that, right? So what we have is the system prompt telling the agent here, you are a rewriting assistant that transforms short user prompts into elaborate cinematic visual descriptions. These are how this is what you do, right? For the assistant prompt, this is how it should behave when doing that job. Okay, so that system user assistant structure right there is something you should be very familiar with. Now, what we're going to do is actually extract the prompts out of here, save them in a method that we can edit them and use them and visualize them much easier. That way, if we ever change a prompt, we don't have to get back into n8n, copy and paste into here, and change up all of our prompts in every single node where we have a prompt. It's all going to be managed in one place. Okay, so you need somewhere to store your prompts. You could use Google Sheets, you could use Airtable. I very much prefer Airtable. That's just what I use for my automation builds. So as part of the 7-day Automation Bootcamp, I also teach you how to build an Airtable base. So in that Airtable base, you can see we can build out our content and in that Airtable base, you can see we can build out our content, create our images and videos and write the captions and all of that stuff. Well, I also show you how to build a table. Okay, the table is I'll also show you how to build these tables to store all of your information so that it's all managed in one place. For example, all of your social media accounts. So that's what we're going to do here is create a new table. I'll click the plus here, create a table from scratch. Again, if you're using Google Sheets or something, you just create a new sheet in Google Sheets. All right, so a new table. This will be our agent prompt manager table or agent prompts or something like that. Agent prompt manager. I'll save that in Airtable. I like to start completely from scratch. I'm just going to delete out these 4 fields. I'll keep the name field and the notes field. The notes field is actually a long text field. I can change this notes field to prompts. This is where I'm going to save the prompts. Great. The name, I could write the name of the agent and assign a role. So I'm going to create a new field. I'll click the plus, create a single select dropdown. We'll call it role. And for the options, we'll say system, user, and assistant roles. I'll just assign these colors to make it easier. System, user, and assistant. We'll create the field. I'll slide the roles down to the front so we can see that. And I'll bring in my agent name right here. I'll just go copy and paste that because I'm lazy. So I'll double click in here, click the name, copy it, come back into Airtable. This is my image prompt agent. Now I have the multiple roles. I have all 3 roles, right? System, user, and assistant roles for this agent. So I can copy and paste this down here. And for the prompts, let's go copy and paste those prompts. Here's the system prompt. I'll copy it, paste it into the prompts right there. Double click into the field to paste into Airtable. You don't want to expand out the fields in this case. So there's my system prompt. Come back in. Just for reference, just for context, I'm going to copy my user prompt, right? Just for record keeping, we can see what the user prompt is going in. Sometimes user prompts need to be more elaborate and specific to a specific agent. In this case, it's just user input, just the input coming through. Jump back into n8n, copy the assistant prompt, paste the assistant prompt right there. No, I do not want to expand. Double click into the field. There we go. Now I'm going to come up to this button just to change the row height. I like to see a little bit more of the prompts themselves. And maybe I'll keep it at medium just so we can see that. Maybe in this case, I'll just keep it at short for now. Great. But what I will do, however, is come up to group. So I want to group by name first and then role. So I'm going to click on name, A to Z, then add a subgroup, role. So I'll group by the name. Now we can see all of the prompts grouped together for that specific agent right there. Okay, great. That is in there. Let's go create our other agent. Copy and paste everything in here from our other agent. So I'm going to click down here to create a new record. I'll copy and paste this from n8n. I just don't like, I'll copy the caption, writer, agent name, come back into Airtable, paste that right there. I'll hit tab on the keyboard, come over to the prompts, copy the system prompt, paste that in right there. I'll set this to system and click outside of that box down there. So now you can see how things are being grouped by the agent name in alphabetical order. So now that we have this name up here, I can click the plus here, or I can click the plus here to add another prompt inside of that group, and the name will automatically pop in there. So I'm going to set this one to user. I'll create a new one, set this one to assistant. Let's jump back into n8n. I'll grab the user prompt just for context here. It's a little bit different structure than just the user input coming in. Great. Assistant prompt, jump over to n8n, copy the assistant prompt and paste that in just like that. Cool. So now we have our storage table built out. If we ever need to change a prompt in the agent, we can just come in here and make the change. We just have to go set up that dynamic prompt now in n8n. So I'm going to jump over to n8n. I'm going to click outside of this node. We're going to have to push data through this to get that data coming down so we can drag and drop it into the image prompt agent, right? So I'm going to save my workflow. I'll test it over here. Just by hitting the execute workflow button on the trigger, I want to test the workflow. I want to test it over here by hitting the execute workflow button on the trigger. But I'm going to stop it right here. I'm going to actually just test it up to this point. So make sure all my execution data is clear. Right here, clear your execution data. Then we can test up to this node by clicking the little play button right there. So that will run. That will wait for the trigger. We can see it waiting for generation actions right here. I'll jump over to Airtable. I'll come into my content workflow. This is where I trigger that automation. I'm just going to create a new test run here. Test prompts. I'll set my settings. Again, I walk you through building this entire system step by step if you want to learn how to build this content management system. Got the link for my 7-day Automation Bootcamp in the description below. Adding in my settings here, and I'll choose Generate Image. That will trigger this workflow and come down to this point. So we can watch that one come through. There it goes. And we've got that data coming in. So everything is working. We just need to add some new data in here. Okay, that looks great. The data we need to add is actually coming from our new Airtable table. So we need to come back here and get that data pushing down the chain, right? So just running it down, double checking, everything's coming through just fine as it is. Let's go create another Airtable node. I'll click and drag off of this webhook right here, drag another route, find the Airtable route, find the Airtable node. I want the search records node. We need to search for all of our prompts in that table. So I'm going to choose my credential, choose my base, choose my table, and the table I want is that brand new table, the Agent Prompt Manager. Okay, we can filter for specific workflows and specific runs. We can filter how that data is coming in from the search node. We can grab just a set list of prompts for specific agents, for example. In this case, we need all of the prompts to come through because both agents are being used in this workflow. So I'm going to leave it at return all, click on execute step. That'll get the data moving through. I'll click outside of this node and we need to add this into the merge node. So I'm going to come into the merge node. This is a quick and dirty setup, by the way, for the merge node. It gets very complicated doing different combine functions in here. You could very easily, when you're pushing Airtable record IDs, down the merge node, you could very easily break your entire automation. The merge node does not know how to merge different record IDs into the same data set. Don't worry if that doesn't make sense. Merge node is tricky, so this is a quick and dirty setup. What we can do is actually set the mode to append. We'll change the number of inputs to 3. We have another input coming in. I'll click outside of this node and insert that input right there. Later on down, I'll optimize this much better, but for now, this works excellently. I'll go ahead and rename this node. Let's name it Get All Agent Prompts. I'll rename it, test the merge node, and we'll get all that data coming through. Perfect, 8 items. There's 6 from here and 1 from each of these routes. Now, just to show you what I mean by quick and dirty, we have 2 runs coming through the merge node. All right, if we look at the table view, we can see run number 1 has some undefined fields. There's there's a mismatch of matching data here. And then we have another run number 2, with yet even more data coming through. We're gonna fix that by aggregating everything, okay? In the aggregate node, we set this to all item data. We can name our array right here. I'll click on execute step, come back into schema, and we've got our 3 data items. And we've got all our data items coming through, okay? All the prompts, the API keys I'm using, and the actual piece of content right here in data 0. Now we can pass that 1 bundle through the switch node and on. So I'll go ahead and run the switch node. By the way, feel free to reach out to me. You can, always ask questions in the bootcamp if you're wondering why we're doing this setup, or how does this work, or why does this work, or anything like that. Jump into the 7-day automation bootcamp. I'm very active in all of my school communities. You can always ask me questions and post stuff up in the group. Cool. So we're going to move into generate image node. This is where we're storing all the data. Now this is going to break some of the fields coming in here. That's why I wanted to double check everything is running. Well, now it's not. We have a new data array bringing in all of our data. So I need to find my file API key. If you watched my previous YouTube video, I showed you how to set up dynamic API keys. Pretty cool. Okay, right there, data object 7. There's my API key. I'll drag that back in. Click execute step. We've got all the relevant data we had before passing on. Let's go grab the relevant agent prompts. So this is for our image prompt agent. This is going to write better image prompts. So let's find the data containing those prompts right here. We need the system prompt. You can see I named it. You can see it in the prompt right here. I have it named. Also, we have the role field. So this is the system prompt right here. I'm going to drag this in, simply name it image prompt agent system. Great. Let's grab the next one, data item 2. This is the user role for the caption writer. Look at that. We don't want that one. Let's find the next one down. Image prompt agent. This is the assistant prompt. We can grab that. I'll rename this image prompt agent assistant, and we'll find the user prompt. Image prompt agent user role. There's the prompt right there. User, I'll just slide this one up. Preferential thing right there, and click on execute step. Now we've got all of our data passing on. I'm gonna slide down to the OpenAI node right there. Now we can delete out our system prompt. Delete out the system prompt. I'll come into my generate image node that's preparing everything and find my image prompt agent system right there. Cool. Now, in case we needed to, we can paste in the user. We can map in the user prompt right here, right? If I went ahead and mapped this in, it's not really going to give us what we want. We want this mapping to stay in there in this case. But we can see, okay, user prompt should be this mapping. That's great. It is that mapping. That works awesome. So assistant prompt, I'll delete out the entire assistant prompt. We can just drag in that mapping right there. And now our assistant prompt is linked in there. By the way, guys, this is how you hide your backend prompts in your n8n workflows. Let's pause right here and talk about what that means for a second. In your n8n workflows, all right, I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna copy this caption writer. If you were to download your workflow and send this workflow to someone as a template, they could take your JSON file and load it into their n8n and have your workflow as a template, right? What if you wanted to keep your prompts hidden? You wanted them to have your workflow, but you didn't want them necessarily to have your very specific proprietary, do everything master engineered prompts that you built, right? What happens is I'll jump over to Google Docs just so we can demonstrate this. If I paste in that node and we take a look at it, okay, right here, this is my prompt, all right? These are all my prompts. This is the system prompt, the user prompt, and the assistant prompt. You can see the actual text I have in my prompt, all right? So anyone you're giving your workflows to is now gonna have your prompts. And if those are something you wanna keep secret and safe as part of your business, you cannot have your prompts in there, all right? I'm gonna delete this out. Let's go copy the other one we just built now. Okay, I'm gonna copy this node and paste it into Google Docs. Let's take a look now. Much cleaner, much safer. Here are my prompts. They're all dynamically inserted. This is the system prompt. Here's the role, the user prompt, and the assistant prompt, right? Here's the role. So now all your prompts are hidden. If you were to copy your workflow or someone gets your JSON file, they're not actually gonna get your prompts. And that is one of the side benefits of keeping your prompts stored dynamically. The other benefit is, of course, now that we have our prompts linked into this agent, if I ever want to change my agent prompts, I don't have to go in here and change them here. Everything is going to be managed in my content management system. I can manage all my prompts right here. I can just click into here and rewrite the prompts how I want right here. That is amazing. Cool, so that finishes it off here. We could test it all the way down and make sure everything's working, but I'm just gonna run the agent just to make sure that comes through. It's always wise to test everything you're doing as you're doing it so that you know it's working, obviously. So now that image prompt agent is writing those prompts, there we go. Just like that, we've got a nice looking prompt, but this is why we test, right? Inside of that assistant prompt, there is an actual mapping right here, right there, okay? Actual mapping right there. So we either need to rewrite the entire prompt in a way that doesn't need that mapping, or it's also right here in the system prompt, or we can go write that into, or we can write it in so that the mappings are then remapped in here, right? In this case, it's probably better to change your prompt so that the mappings aren't in the actual prompt. That way it's not going to output the mapping like that. What I would do is rewrite the prompt so that it's looking for the user input text here, and it's looking for the image preset mapping, whatever this is coming through. It's the image preset for the image generation, right? I would actually rewrite my prompts. I'm not going to do that now. That's something I'll leave up to you and your master prompt engineering skills, but just keep that in mind. We always want to test it going through. We always want to double check and, of course, fix all the mappings. Just as a rule of thumb, right? When I write prompts normally, again, this is for my course, so I'm leaving this built in here for my students so we can talk about it exactly as I'm talking to you about it now. When I write prompts generally, I make sure that all of the mappings are in the user prompt. Everything I need to link in here is in the user prompt. That way I can always dynamically add the system prompt and the assistant prompt without having to think about redoing it or fixing it with those mappings in there. Great. So I'll leave that up to you guys, but we are now getting dynamic prompts in our image prompt agent. Congratulations. It's that exact same process for all of your LLM nodes, all of your agents, everything like that. You're just going to pass through that table with all your captions, pass through that table with all your prompts, then pick and choose which prompts get sent to which agents. Guys, excellent job. Congratulations making it through this video. Very, very well done. There it is, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, I walk you through building the entire n8n workflow and the entire content management Airtable base. If you want to check that out, I have the link in the description to my 7-day automation bootcamp. It's only $10 to join, and it's designed for complete beginners to get you building your first system. Airtable as the command center, n8n as the controller brain for the entire system. By the end of the 7 days, you'll have a fully working system. Join the bootcamp below. Guys, I look forward to seeing you over there, and I will see you in the next video.